Welcome in to the Sick Podcast with Draft Vogel. I'm John Vogel, your host. Justin about to join me here in just a second. We're going to actually talk about some prospects today because guess what? We're a month and a half into the season. We spent the off season getting you ready, talking about what we're looking for. Now we get to apply all that knowledge and start looking forward into the 2024 NFL Draft, and it's going to be a fun draft. It's going to be a fun draft, guys. Shane, back in the studio. Let's go ahead. Hit it.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. With Draft Vogel.
With the first pick in the 2021 NFL Draft. The first pick in the 2022 NFL Draft. With the first pick in the 2023 NFL Draft.
The sickest NFL Draft show. It's gonna be sick.
And we're back. Joining us now is Mr. Justen Gamble at GamScout on X. If you partake in such different things, you follow me at Draft Vogel. You can follow this show at SickPod NFL Draft. Justin, how's it going, man?
This is a good day, buddy. This is the NHL regular season start. So
at time of recording. Yep.
Not exactly what we talk about on this show all the time, but for me and producer Shane in Canada, this is a big day for us. So
it's a big day. Hey.
Okay. You're a Nashville fan. It's not that big of a day for you. So calm down.
We are opening day one. Game one.
What's the score?
Like 1-0.
What's the shots?
But, hey, we're opening. We're gonna take it. It would be better if it was in Nashville with at Bridgestone, but it just is what it is. Yeah. Hey, so before we get into this episode, we definitely have to do a quick little shout out to DraftKings. The NFL season is going strong, and DraftKings Sportsbook is hooking up new customers with an offer that's even stronger. Bet $5 on any game this week to score $200 instantly in bonus bets. Justin, that's a lot in bonus bets. And DraftKings isn't stopping there. All customers can take advantage of a sweeter offer every game day this October. Get in on the game day greatness. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code SICKSPORTS. Get that. Code SICKSPORTS. New customers can score $200 instantly.
That's good. $200.
Absolutely. Yeah,
cool.
Absolutely. So I actually had a friend that started betting years ago because of me, and I told him to go to DraftKings, download the app, and this is before this is years ago. I think the Chiefs were playing the Buccaneers in the Super Bowl, and I said, put it all on the Buccaneers. And guess what? He took his $5, he put it on the Buccaneers, and he got $200 back in instant bets. So that's the kind of thing that you can do with DraftKings, and
it's user-friendly. My mom uses it all the time. She'll text me every Sunday morning, like, what's my parlays? And I'm like, what app? And
your mom?
Oh, yeah, dude. She's a degenerate. So.
Apparently. We're all degenerates now. Hey,
yeah.
Tuesday night college football. I'm all in on all that stuff, too. Wednesday night college football, Thursday night college football. We got it all for the rest of the college football season, I think.
So,
because as soon as Conference USA finishes up this month in October, they're going to roll into MACtion. And that's going to start Tuesday and Wednesday nights. Yeah, baby.
There's some real creatures come out for MACtion too.
They've been coming out for Conference USA too. Just going to say, like, Western Kentucky's look good. Jacksonville State at the moment is still undefeated. Yeah. I mean, first year in the FBS. There's some players we could talk about on that at some point too, but maybe one actually. There's one that comes to mind. But yeah, no, it's a great deal.
Yeah.
But Justin, you said you wanted to start this thing off hot, so I'm just going to go ahead and let you take it. Like you you had something.
We're going to talk about prospects today and stuff, but I figured it'd be good of us to stick to our roots and revisit the past a little bit and just talk something about what I was reminded this week watching Miles Crosby yesterday. Or Max Crosby, excuse me.
Max Crosby, yeah.
Max Crosby.
I was about to correct
Eastern
you.
Michigan. Yeah. Sometimes my database betrays me, but he was a 4th round pick in 2019. And I think the weird thing is if he didn't play at Eastern Michigan, I think a lot of people had high grades on him, but it's one of those things where it's difficult to go all in for a prospect that either doesn't produce super high, like super, he's not outrageously racking up the stat sheet, which he actually did. He had great production in college, but a lot of guys that are either smaller school guys or that don't get the media hype, you almost feel like you're wrong simply because, the echo chamber is not saying what you want them to say. What I'm trying to get off this is, I think a lot of people, when you start scouting, we start evaluating, it's very difficult to drown out everything outside and kind of give your own takes on things. And like media perception is huge. And I know personally, I've missed a lot on players just because I think they're overrated in the media. So now I hugely underrate them. And I was going back in my notes. Yeah. And I'm guilty of this, right? Like I like to push back. And it's sometimes it's just, I hate that portion of the year when a player is so talked about that if you bring up, if you even question something about his game, everyone, calls you stupid or just says you're overthinking it. And it takes all the nuance out of evaluating. And I hate that part of it. So I get caught in the other side where I push back. So I was going through my notes the other day and I realized I had the same grade on Max Crosby as I did as TJ Watt. Now, I think here's the problem. I was probably wrong on both because I thought Max Crosby would be a solid edge rusher. I thought he'd be 8 to 10 sack guy is his ceiling, and he'd probably be a complimentary guy. I thought the same thing about TJ Watt. So I kind of met them in the middle because my perception was, well, TJ Watt's overrated, take him down. Max Crosby, I can't go too high on because I'm missing something. No one else is having, is this high on him. So even though I thought, there's the wingspan, there's the elite get off, there's the elite testing. Max Crosby blew up testing at the combine, came out absolutely elite. But it's this thing of like the perceptions from the outside. It really creates it creates just this environment where it's difficult for everyone to kind of think for themselves. So what I was going to ask you is mine. I think those were my two guys where I kind of crossed them over and met them in the middle, and I missed on both. I was way too low on TJ Watt. I was probably too low on Max Crosby because I should have had them higher. I should have had them both as elite edge rushers because that's what they are now. But I missed on them because I was afraid to have my own opinion. Is there anyone like that? Is there anyone from the past that you can think, hey, I missed on him, I was too high, I missed on him, I was too low, and why? Was it similar circumstances for me? Or who are your biggest miss? What's your biggest hit?
There is a particular type of quarterback that comes to mind, and it's one that we've seen have flashes in the NFL so far, right? So Baker Mayfield was a guy, I thought he was worthy of the first overall pick. Yeah. I was all in on, I thought he was going to be the savior in Cleveland, and for a couple of years there, it looked like he had a real shot to be, But what happened with Baker is really good off of play action. When you can get a running game going and you can support him and then give him opportunities to throw the ball down the field off that play action while the defense isn't quite in place, he's really good because his placement is not elite. That's the one thing about Baker he's going to always be a box accurate guy. He's got a quick release. He's got a lot of different things like that work for him. Yeah. But his placement is not elite. Because of that, that's going to limit you as a quarterback. So maybe I was a little too low on Sam Howell coming out because Sam Howell is basically Baker Mayfield if you compare their skill sets together. I mean, even watching them play, they move similarly. They throw the ball very similarly. The ball comes out of their hands and it ends up in the same place. They're very, very similar prospects in a sense of how they play the game, how you break down their traits and what they look like. They're almost identical.
Yeah, sure. They look the same, so
they really do. And they're the same size. I mean, like that was my comp for him was poor man's Baker Mayfield coming out of college. And for that reason, I bumped him way down my board, and I didn't think he had a legitimate chance at starting in Washington. And here we are. He's 2-3 as a starter at this point.
But he looks like a starter. Yeah.
Yeah, he looks like he's an actual starting quarterback in the NFL. So yeah, I think that sometimes that's the fine line is we want to over-adjust when we miss or over-adjust when we hit. So Lamar Jackson was a guy I over-adjusted on maybe just a tad bit. It ended up working out because the guy I over-adjusted on was Jalen Hurts. So, like...
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, that worked out. But it goes back to sometimes guys have these traits that we look at and we go, hey, like, there's this... he reminds me of this guy, and he didn't work out the way I thought he would, so now I'm going to knock him back. And instead, we got to sit back and try to keep the whole full picture. Okay, what can they do? How do you fit him in? Where could he fit up? I mean, like, I'm going to go ahead and say this, and I know that you're not there yet. I am. And because I think I actually talked about it on this show, Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy is not going to have the greatest arm. He's not going to have the great ball placement.
Yep.
But he's getting better every game.
He is. This last game was the first time where I was like, they got their guy. Unless they're forced, like I was tweeting this, unless they're down by 14 early and they're like, shoot, we got to abandon, we got to go pure drop back, we got to, kind of let the defense dictate the rules a little bit. I don't think we're going to see Brock Purdy get exposed, and that might just get them a Super Bowl. They might do it.
I'm going to point out two guys from the past. One from the 49ers organization, who when he was drafted, he wasn't Mr. Irrelevant now. He was a third-round pick. But when he was drafted, he didn't have the greatest arm. He wasn't big. But he got the ball to the playmakers. Now, he also developed elite placement. This is Joe Montana I'm referring to.
Yeah.
And won 4 Super Bowls. Okay, I don't know if Brock is going to get there. The other guy I'm going to point out, 6th-round pick. We all know who he is, 2000.
Never heard of him.
Goes to the Patriots, wins the Super Bowl. Now, I think that if Tom Brady tried to come out today, like he's a 6th-round pick, wins a Super Bowl, comes back the next year. Because if you remember that 2002 season, the Patriots were not the same. They struggled. They missed the playoffs. They were 9-7 that year. And I think that if that happened, Tom Brady now, like today, in today's social media crazed, patientless franchise,
yeah,
he doesn't get an opportunity to come back and win 5 more Super Bowls.
Yeah.
They move on. They go get another guy because they're like, oh yeah, he's not it. He's a 6th-round pick. We're done. The 49ers are one of these organizations where everything is perfectly in place with the way that they have the playmakers build across the offense. Their defense is elite. All you really have to be able to do is just come out here and be better every week. And that's what Purdy's doing right now. He's getting better with every game. You're seeing him do more things that we hadn't seen him pull off yet. His placement's still not there, but he's flashing. It's getting better.
If he doesn't have to drive the ball, his placement's fine. He can layer it in there beautifully. But if you see him like really dial up his arm, you're like, oh shoot, that's like that. And I think that was last season we saw him kind of testing it a lot. And that was when he had like 9 should have been interceptions on tape where like you rewind it and you're like, that is the worst throw he could have made. And somehow the defense didn't come up with it, or it got tipped weird. But those were the throws where I saw him like kind of speeding up his arm. And I'm like, he's trying, but it's not going to be there, buddy. And now I think he found his range and stick to it. And if Kyle Shanahan can stick him to that, I think he's fine.
I think if they even get into a 14-point hole, they're comfortable with their defense figuring it out and their offense being able to just slowly come back into the game. I don't think they're going to abandon stuff. And I think that they're built that way specifically. Like, hey, kudos to John Lynch. He's built a phenomenal franchise. You know what I'm saying? Like, that team doesn't get much better. And when we start talking about weaknesses, we're really nitpicking. I mean, what do you say? Oh, well, the safeties probably could be a little bit better. They could have a little more range. They're starting to get a little
secondary
old.
Might be the only thing. But they don't have to rely on the secondary. So
no, they got an elite front 6, and they can rotate on that front 6. The front 4 at least. And I say front 6 because they only play 2 linebackers. There's Fred Warner, and we talked about him a lot on this show, and Joy Greenlaw. So, I think Brock is in a perfect situation where he can go win a Super Bowl, and he might be able to go get another one. Where it's just a perfect storm of talent being around him just being good enough. And I think that was our big question. Is he good enough? Is there going to be a week where it's going to get figured out and somebody's going to go, yep, this is how you confuse him? Because he's still processing really, really well too.
If they don't trail, they don't even have to explore that. And that's the other thing. I'm not trying to discredit Brock, but if they don't get in a spot where they have to face adversity, like what's going to change? They're fine. It never even gets to the point where we're like, let's see, like, no. They're doing whatever they want each week right now, and it's like, all right, well, like they're running their script, and it doesn't have to. They don't have to adjust. They don't have to change anything. So, Yeah, it's nothing against him. He played a great game the other night, and I don't see. They play the Buccaneers. They play Philly.
Philly will be their first real test, I think.
Yeah, and their linebackers but Philly's back. Their linebackers and their secondary is not great, so I don't have a lot of faith. I think the front 4 or 5 is going to have to really wreck things for a bit to get Philadelphia in a spot to expose any flaws that.
I don't think you're going to see Brock get exposed. Period. But I'm just saying that Philadelphia as a whole will be the first game. Yeah, it'll be the first game that they get a chance. Yeah, where we see them in real adversity, because in the NFC you've got Philadelphia, you got San Francisco, and you got Detroit. And Detroit, there's a little bit of a gap between those two.
Right. So it's not going to happen. Buccaneers might test them, but that seems unlikely.
No, Buccaneers have to get the run game going, and they're not going to get the run game going against them. No. Yeah, no, that's not happening.
Yeah.
But anyways,
go ahead.
Let's talk prospects, man.
Let's do it.
Let's I want to. What's been first 6 weeks of the season? You've been grinding through the tape. You probably haven't gone as deep as I have. I've started devoting Thursdays to just strictly FCS players because
those guys. You always have.
Well, here's the thing. What I've learned, because I get to do high school football a lot now. Mm-hmm. I get obviously scout college guys, and then you got to keep up with the NFL. I cannot mix those levels on the same day and come away with good evaluations.
I feel that, yeah.
And so like I was talking, I think it was Greg Moore with the Senior Bowl. I was talking with him at the MTSU game a couple weeks ago, and he does the same thing. He works with high school kids, and he was asking me, "What did you figure out?" I said, "Man, if I'm going to high school practice, like on Monday, I spend Monday before practice watching tape, high school tape. Like I won't touch. I'll watch the Monday night game, but I'm not sitting there taking notes during it. Right. It's just I'm just watching it as a football game and kind of paying attention and seeing who wins, basically. Like, okay, nothing serious.
It's entertainment that day, yeah.
Tuesday is college. Wednesday, college. Thursday, I typically end up back at practice. So again, high school tape, looking at it and trying to get a feel for the next opponent or whatever the focus was on Monday, and then sticking strictly to high school Thursday. Friday is the game day, so that's really a high school day again. And then Saturday is just college football. Sunday, NFL. Now, when the high school season ends, I won't be looking at high school tape, so my calendar will expand a little bit more. But that I've had to separate those days, and there's even a noticeable drop in FCS to FBS. Yeah, and because of that, it's almost like this bridge, this gap between, like high school and college, right? But it's a smaller gap than that. So if I spend a day where I'm watching FCS guys, I can properly evaluate them because I'm relative to that level. That's where I started with the day. That's what I'm rolling through, and that seems to work really well. I feel like my evaluations are way better, just because. Hey, if a guy pops in the FCS and he's, running faster than everybody, you can see that. But there's the other little nuances. You can see the problems and everything else in their game, how they won't. It's just if you keep it all relative at the same level. Even some days I won't even switch conferences. I'll just stick to the same conference. If it's a heavy SEC day on Saturday, it's a heavy SEC day. I think this week it's going to be heavy Pac-12. But again, that's just keeping it relative. So,
and that's important too. Like in the off season, I watch a lot of NFL because I just don't think it's smart to not watch NFL and then pretend you can evaluate college kids when you don't even understand like what they're being projected to. Like I know it sounds simple, but a lot of people I think don't take time to evaluate, NFL players and see what the prospects you've been watching have become and like what the environment looks like up there. So I think, yeah, you're right. It's really important to keep it all, understand what you're watching and how not only your biases, but just like your perceptions can change based off mixing too many things or overloading your brain with information. It's all different, but there's a lot of nuance that goes into keeping it
a ton of nuance. Right. And Mark Jarvis, shout out to him. He's done a lot of work in this field specifically of how to keep your perception and everything perspective the same. and relative to what you're doing. And I like his Twitter account, and I like everything that he does, the writing and stuff that he puts out, the books he's recommended. He's awesome for that kind of stuff, so.
Will Jarvis. He works hard.
He does. You won't talk to him very much because he's working, so that's a good thing. But is there first half of the season, is there anybody that you were surprised by coming into the year?
Well, we've talked about him, but there's negatives and positives for this list. I have a lot of guys that I'm like, I really expected more, and some guys I'm like, I really expected less, but you're surprising me. I think the first positive is Cam Ward, the Washington State quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
Like last year, I remember being so impressed with it's like he's not Lamar. He's not the twitchiest, freakiest runner, athlete, whatever. But it was like when you watch him, it's like making guys miss is such an art form for him. And he's so poised in the pocket. He's so poised out of the pocket. He's a true playmaker where you feel like every snap he can do anything he wants, and like he's going to wow you. And then he starts off this season, and they finally got their first loss against UCLA this past weekend. Yeah. And I mean, UCLA took it to them. He went 19 for 39. I forget what his overall stat line was, but he had 2 interceptions. They had 4 turnovers, and he looked frustrated. He looked lost. But it was like, that's bound to happen. This is the FBS. This is a Power 5. Not every game can be perfect, but I think still to start this year the way they have and the way he has been amazing. He's got arm talent. He's got, like I said, he's got poise. His placement's a little iffy here and there, but I think, their system is so wide open. Sometimes I'm like, I don't even know if he's really trying to, dial it in
to get it there perfect. Yeah, he's just trying to get it there. Yeah.
He can just play point guard and just bam, 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 distribute it, and he's making huge throws downfield. He's a guy that I think we did talk about in the offseason. I was like, yeah, he's a day 3 guy for me. Big time talent, but will he elevate his game? I don't know how high he can go now. I don't know if round 1 is completely unlikely or improbable, but like there's a lot to work with this kid. Like the arm and athleticism alone, and then when you watch how calm he is on tape, I don't know how you'd look at him and be like, yeah, he can't play in the NFL. He definitely can. It's just how high can he go now?
With him, it's first off, little background info on Cam Ward is incarnate word. He walked in the spring at 21 and was an instant starter. Started there for 2 years, transferred to Washington State. Started last year, and obviously he's been the starter this year. I don't think he's missed a game his entire college career so far. So that's one of those big little background circle. Oh, okay. We got a guy that can stay healthy despite being that mobile athlete.
He doesn't take hits. He doesn't get touched. It's weird, man.
He finds ways around. And I'm not saying he's not this guy. Don't take it this way, but it's Vickish. You know what I'm saying? It's like in the sense of what Michael Vick had, that way of just being able to get himself out of sticky situations and get out of bounds or get down right before the big hit. You don't see Vick take a lot of hits, and Ward's very similar. He's not the type of athlete that Vick was, but he's similar in the way that he knows how to craft his way through the field and avoid those hits. But he's a tick over 6'1", 215. Yeah, no, dude. Like, I came in the year going, I really like him. And you saw the poise at the end of last year with him, where it seemed like everything was starting to settle for him. He was adjusting to the level, the jump from FCS to FBS, Power 5.
Yeah.
And it was and he was playing with that composure, And then with the placement, I think you're right. He flashes great placement, especially on that deep ball. Deep ball he can hit. He dials up so beautifully. And he's a good enough athlete where you can use him in the run game a little bit if you want. I don't know if you scheme him that way. I think it helps him. He almost seems to work really well, almost as good outside the pocket as back in. I don't think he comes out this year. I really don't.
I was talking to someone. I was talking to David Saba, who's asked us questions on a pod. We've talked about him before, but he was talking to me about like 7 or 8 different quarterbacks, and he was like, who do you think comes out? And I'm like, it's kind of tough this year. Like, with Caleb and Drake probably being the locks at 1 and 2, it's hard to know what the mindset of the rest of the quarterbacks in this class will be, knowing like I don't have a chance to be one of the top 2. I'm definitely and then after that, if they say, well, if I'm not 1 or 2, how far could I realistically fall? And then let's say you're not 3 or 4, like, you know what I mean? I have no idea. I don't really have a feel for it. I think it's going to come down to the end of the year when they all get their grades back from the committee. Maybe then we'll get like a better. Well, obviously they'll declare they won't, but I think that's going to be most of it. I don't think we're going to really feel anything till the very end of the year, or probably after, which sucks because
to me,
project,
looking at last year, there was a very obvious trend with quarterbacks, and it was if you can make 7 figures in college this year, and you're not a lock at day 1 pick, just go back to school.
Yeah, just stay.
Bo Nix, Michael Penix, these were guys who were in, Spencer Rattler, Sam Hartman. These are all guys we were kind of talking about that day 2, day 3 range. They all went back to school last year, and I think that's legit. What it is you can go, and Cam Ward's in this situation right now. He can go make 7 figures next year as the star quarterback coming back to Washington State, Wazoo for 1 more year.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Like coming off a big year, he can rake in some serious money, and to take that opportunity, that chance. Where does he go? Like, how high does he go? Does he get out of day 3? With this quarterback class in front of him, it's not because he's a bad quarterback. It's just because there's only so many slots that teams are going to be willing to take a quarterback that early, and there's so many other options of guys that can't go back. Hartman, Nix, Penix, Rattler, I think might be able to go back for another year, but I can't remember. He might be done after this.
He's in his 5th year. I think he's done. Rattler's done.
I can't remember if he took a red shirt or not that freshman year. He might have taken a red shirt. If he took a red shirt, he's got 1 more. But that's my point.
It's also like he plays for Washington State, and he's in that wide open air raid. Like it's not the most ideal thing that teams are looking for. They don't look like who's at Washington State and who, like you're in that wide open. So I know it's not impossible, but I'm just saying, like, it's not like he plays for Georgia where it's like, you're on the map.
Wasn't there a Washington State quarterback in the NFL this week that just like took over for a rookie quarterback? And
I'm not saying they don't want him. I'm just saying, look, he's not in the SEC. He's not even in, USC or UCLA. It's Washington State, so he's going to get that knock. That's always going to be that little knock where it's like, yeah, okay. And their system is so open, and so he just plays a brand of ball that, not that he doesn't translate, but I think it's not. He has some things that go against him when you think about like the prototypes.
Okay, and that might go against him. If that's the case, if he's going to sit down with somebody like an agent or somebody, and they're going to tell him this, which I can't imagine he doesn't. You know what I'm saying? I can't imagine he just spurns every single agent or player manager or whoever wants to get involved in his career.
Right.
I can't see that. So he'll be eligible to grad transfer.
Bro, yeah, go somewhere else. Go to Kentucky or
don't go to Kentucky. Don't go to Kentucky. No.
What am I?
Bama could use a quarterback. They might be interested.
Right. Right.
Throw your name out there. See what happens. You know what I'm saying?
Honestly, yeah, I think he can play anywhere. I just, like I said, I don't. It's nothing against him. I just think those small things are not. When an NFL team sits down and says we got a few SEC guys and a Big 12 guy, or Washington State. Look, it's not a not Power 5, but I just think he's going to get that.
They might not be Power 5 next year. They might have to drop down. They might have to drop down to like Mountain West or somebody, just out of circumstance. Yeah.
Right. So
yeah,
I love the kid. I love his game. I don't know if you said, yeah, he becomes a 2nd round pick, I'd say, yeah, that sounds completely normal. Like I understand that he's a great player. He's a great athlete. You can do a lot worse. So I don't know, but yeah, he's been a huge surprise this year. I love watching Washington State football, and that's a weird thing for me to say because they're not always.
They're fine. They're fine.
Yeah, they've been great.
And a lot of it really is on him making it fun. He's been phenomenal. Yeah, he's one of my favorite quarterbacks. I know that I talked about it too when I was making my all underrated team this year. It was either going to be him or it was going to be Jaden Daniels at Kansas, who's missed a few weeks now, a couple games now with an injury that apparently he sustained before playing Texas. That was interesting.
Yeah, that's confusing. What?
That was confusing.
But it's interesting. Jalen Daniels now being out exposes how bad Kansas can be without him and how good he actually kind of is, because he's 5'11".
Yeah, because Jason Bean is not the same type of player.
And you look at Jalen Daniels and you're like, all right, Kansas, like no one cares. He's 5'11". That sucks. But then you just watch him and you watch Kansas with him and you're like, this is an exciting team that can score at will, take him out. And now I think it's kind of beneficial for him moving forward, because there's clearly a drop off on that team now.
Yeah,
but
absolutely. So
there's another 5'11" quarterback that kind of balled out this weekend too. Dylan Gabriel for Oklahoma.
Oh yeah, no. So we were talking about this. I think it was you and me, wasn't it? Maybe. I think it was you and me. We talked this past week. I can't remember. So I was going into that Texas game, looking at Dylan Gabriel. I was thinking, you watch the Oklahoma offense, they struggle to throw the ball down the field. When they do, they get some crazy lucky break because it's 10 yards underthrown, and the receiver makes this awesome break. The DB never sees it. I mean, that Iowa State game, I didn't see a single good deep ball from Dylan Gabriel. They played that right before playing Texas, and I was going, man, if Oklahoma's going to come in here and try to air the ball down the field against Texas, it's not going to work. And to my surprise and my utter disbelief, the first deep throw he took was completed. It was only 5 yards underthrown. And then he came back with another one that went, it was the best deep ball I've ever seen him throw, and the dude dropped it.
Yeah.
But he played with some real awesome moxie in that game.
Yes, he did.
Real poise, especially in those 2-minute drives at the end of each half. And yeah, Dylan Gabriel definitely popped this week. Absolutely.
He is, I'm going to get in trouble for saying that. Like, he's the Oklahoma Brock Purdy, as far as like when they ask him to just stay within his range and kind of distribute the ball and, don't try anything that might get you in trouble. He's great. I think the craziest thing about watching that game was there was a clear gap in like which quarterback had command of their offense and which one kind of just looked like not shell-shocked, but every play you're kind of like, he doesn't look like he's in command. He doesn't look confident. Ewers was not the guy that he was built. Like this past Saturday, he was not the guy he's been billed as. That was a game where I was like, dude, you're not draftable right now. Like, you don't look confident in decision-making. Every ball you throw, you're short-arming because you're kind of feathering it in there. There's no drive on your balls. You don't understand your own placement because you might have too much arm talent and you haven't figured out your lower body mechanics yet. It was just one of those games where the inferior talent was the better player that day. Like, he was the better football player. He probably won't become the better prospect. He's not. But he outplayed Quinn Ewers and he kept his team on schedule. And, that was just a fantastic game, the way they came back to win at the end. So it was one of those things where, he might have made himself a little bit of money. His throwing motion's ugly. His arm's weak. He's a lefty. He's 5'11". But maybe he pulls a Stetson Bennett and gets drafted in the 6th or 7th round and makes a roster somewhere.
Well, Stetson got drafted in the 4th, you got to remember. So
was Stetson a 4th?
Yeah, he was a 4th rounder, bro.
I always
he went before Aiden O'Connell, man.
Why do I always? I feel like I flip those two in my head because the other day I was talking to someone and I was
Aiden was a 4th rounder too. So
okay, wait. There's someone else I'm thinking of, but I loved Aiden O'Connell by the way, but whatever. Maybe Dylan Gabriel pulls anyone else that was later day 3 because he looked good. He looked good against Texas.
I mean, to me that game with Dylan is a bit of an anomaly because that was the best game we'd seen him play. And maybe he needs the pressure.
Against the best team. And that's what evaluators are going to say. Like, who is the best team they played this year?
But
I know.
But the other games. What about the other games? The other team.
I'm just saying. Is it better that he played great against bad teams or great against bad teams and bad against the good teams, or the vice versa? Like, all I'm saying is he did the best thing he could do and he balled out on a big stage. So, there was nothing more he could have done. It might do nothing for him overall. He might suck the rest of the year. But if you're going to turn it around and make people take note, that's a good start, I think.
I just want to see him build off of that performance.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
I
saying?
wouldn't draft him, but yeah, you're right. Like
Build off the performance.
Ascend.
He definitely got people's attention. I had actually done the homework going into that game because I knew that was going to be the first game I was going to watch. I hadn't really seen Oklahoma all year, and I went back and I looked at games, and I was just like, oh boy.
Yeah, no,
you know,
I did not think they had a shot going into that game because I was like,
No.
Quinn is going to outplay Gabriel, and it's going to be, Texas will win by 2 scores.
The other thing you can point to with Ewers is Ewers ever going to see a defense like that again? Because Brent Venables' defense, we've talked about it extensively on this show, has a way of just being so confusing because they don't do it like anybody else does.
They'll put on pressure looks that are so stupid looking sometimes, but you're like, oh man, they just confused the crap out of the quarterback today. I love Brent Venables stuff, dude.
Me too. I love studying it, but nobody uses it outside of him. He's the only dude that's crazy enough to try it.
Oh yeah, yeah, I love it. Well, I mean, Quinn Ewers. I don't know who else he plays.
When you go look at the Kansas game the week before, I know that Kansas we'd kind of write them off, but Lance Leipold has built that into a very solid team in the Big 12, which is okay. It's a Big 12, but they're solid. You know what I'm saying? He ripped them apart in the second half. This has been a slow starting offense all year. It takes them a little while to get adjusted and make all their checks and get everything rolling, and then they roll. But he ripped Kansas apart. He ripped Alabama apart. Alabama couldn't figure it out.
I think Sarkisian should get more credit too. I watched the All-22, the Bama-Texas game, and I couldn't believe what Sark was doing to the safeties and linebackers and nickels for Alabama. Like, it was a masterclass. And I came away even live after that game thinking, like, Quinn Ewers didn't really move the needle for me today. He kind of just did his part, but I'd like to see him be more of the catalyst for the win versus just kind of the kid that, steered the vehicle. I thought Sark, and Sark knows Saban so well. So coming into that game, I'm like, this is going to be great. It's going to be a good chess match of coaches. But I like the Quinn Ewers stat line after the Oklahoma game looked so good. But I'm like, if you watch that game, that was not his best game by any means. But I think the stat watchers are going to say it was great. But I just can't get over the way that he looks when he throws a football lately. It's just, he's not a confident thrower. He's not a confident passer. He doesn't look like he understands his own placement. And we talked about, the biggest knock on Quinn coming into this year was his lower body sucks. He's all arm. His deep balls flow, even though he has a cannon, just because his kinetic chain blows right now. He doesn't understand it. I think he probably needs another year. I hope he doesn't come out. I think he needs another year, and
he's not coming out.
I hope not. People think he is, and I don't think so, but I don't know.
No. Look, Texas is arguably the school that puts up the most NIL money out of any of them. I guess USC is probably very close, but Texas is top dog. He's not coming out this year. He's not a lock for a first round pick. No way. And Texas is going to throw so much money at him to stay because he's their prodigal son returned from Ohio State. So they're going to throw a ton of money at him.
Yeah,
and
I hope so.
He'll take another year. Yeah, he's not going anywhere. I can't see that happening.
I like it. Good to hear.
Now one of the things too is up until last week, Caleb Williams looked like the number 1 pick. Everybody was talking about it. I think you and I were still kind of over here going, well, it's still early in the year. Did you watch him against Arizona yet? Did you get around to looking at that tape?
I just watched it live. Because I
you stayed up for that one.
No. I watched it live after the fact. I recorded it, watched it live after. Because I was like, I want to know. Yeah. But I was like, I'd like to watch the broadcast first before I get into it. Because I'm like, I want to know how it felt, watching it in the moment. I want to know how big the play was, how big the stage was, the emotions of it all. It was interesting. And I think you are onto something with Lincoln Riley's system. Is not, it got a lot, it used to get probably a lot more credit than it might start to get soon. It looks like you can't just say, hey, Caleb, you're special. We're going to run 3 and 4 verts all game, figure it out, and think you're going to blow every team out each week. And that's kind of what he's doing. And it's ugly. it's kind of getting a little ugly for Caleb, and I don't love that.
Yeah, so in that game, triple overtime, Arizona takes them down to the wire at home. Might I add? Arizona wasn't hosting, and 43-41 they escaped with the win. And I think it was the first time somebody was able to disrupt that system. You know, maybe we can make an argument and say that Colorado kind of did there in the fourth quarter against USC, but this was a game long type deal where Caleb made some really special plays.
Yeah.
But that whole first quarter, about 5 minutes into the second quarter, was some really ugly football.
Yes.
Very ugly. Like he was running for his life. He couldn't. You were starting to see some of the pocket issues. This is a rebuild offensive line that's so stacked with talent that they shouldn't be giving up this kind of pressure. It's the other thing with it too is, and it's probably the nature of the system. It doesn't help his internal clock. Sometimes he holds on to the ball way too long and walks himself into sacks.
Well, it enables that backyard ball crap that we've seen Kyler do it. Kyler played in it. We saw Jalen Hurts do it. We've seen a lot of quarterbacks in this Riley system, and they're all backyard guys. Like Jalen Hurts' whole career at Oklahoma was first read isn't there, roll right, and figure something out. Either run or throw it open. Kyler Murray looked like an outfielder in that system. He would just run around until he found a deep shot and launch it. And now it's like Caleb is kind of doing the same thing. And I don't think it's his fault, but yeah, it's not an on-time offense. It's not a rhythm offense. It's not even really creative. It's just, we're better than you. We have a great quarterback and it's going to work for us. And it is, but like not for long. You know, they're going to lose at some point. And I don't know how I wrote down one of my fallers. We did risers, faller this week. Alex Grinch. How does he have a job? How does the defensive coordinator for USC have a job? He leaves Oklahoma after giving them horrendous defenses for I don't know how long. Now he's at USC, and I mean, like I think some high school teams could throw 50 on them. It's awful.
I don't know about the high school teams, but
like throw Mater Dei out there. Like go down the road to Mater Dei High School and see what they could do. It just feels like, why are you guys so bad? That's what I can't figure out. Why is it always Alex Grinch's system is stupid I get it, but like, how does USC get so much talent and they just can't stop people? I want Caleb to be in the playoff selfishly. I'm like, come on, like complete.
It's not going to be USC. They're not going to be in the playoff.
No, I know it's not, but
it's going to be, if I had to take a guess today, it'd be Oregon.
Ooh. I guess we'll see if they can beat Washington. That'll be the big test.
That'll be their big test this week.
Winner of that probably. Well, Washington has a tough schedule remaining. Yeah, but anyway, I think
Oregon goes this year. I mean, their defense is playing lights out. That's a riser to talk about.
Yeah,
and I'm not even talking about Bo Nix. I'm
just
talking about Kyrie Jackson, bro.
Alabama transfer
cornerback. Yeah, let me pull up my profile on him. Cornerback transferred from Alabama. Kyrie Jackson is having himself a year.
Around when he walks, bro. The wingspan on that kid. Like we talked about that a few weeks ago. There's times where I'm like, he's not in phase. He might get beat, and then he jumps, and I'm like, dude, I don't get how you found that ball.
It's picture perfect.
Oh, he's so good.
Picture perfect.
Good. Yeah.
Very smooth hips. He's 6'2", just a tick over 6'2", 198. I thought he would. I mean, man coverage, lockdown corner is what he looks like. If we could draft players off of one game after that Colorado game, he is a top 5 prospect.
Yeah, but when you put a highlight reel up, it was like all the reps from that game. You're like, there's one.
He had 3 pass deflections. They were all on deep balls where he played trail and then recovered right into it and knocked the ball away and was perfect. I mean, I couldn't believe watching that game just how good he was. Now, even when he's in zone coverage, I think his positioning is top notch. He gets just enough depth. He feels the zone really well. He's an absolute ball hawk. I mean, he just finds the football, dude. That's all there is to it with him. He's a JUCO transfer from Fort Scott. Did 3 years in the Bama system. First year this year at Oregon. I mean, this is a prototype cornerback for a match 4 system. I mean, and that's what half the NFL is running right now.
Yeah.
So, to me, I think that we kind of came in this year thinking Kool-Aid McKinstry at Alabama was probably the number one corner. Well,
And
the guy
he still might be, but there's competition. There's
Kyrie
definitely
is throwing up a real fight. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think that you're going to look at the length that Kyrie has. I had this. I think I taught you weren't on the show yet. We still had Matt, who's doing a great job at Houston, by the way. Now, when I had this theory and looking at history, 6'2" corners do not typically translate well to the NFL when they're outside of a zone system. They just don't.
It's tough. Yeah, it's tough.
It seems like when you're in man coverage, you have to be able to react faster. And when you have that little bit of extra higher center of gravity, it's really hard for you to get into a position where you can react to a pass and break it up or make a play on the ball. And so that was my big concern, when I was watching Sauce Gardner. Like, we've seen Sauce do a really great job in zone coverage, but as soon as you put him man on man, good luck. I hope he wins it.
He started to have his struggles in the NFL. And
that's what it is it's always when he's in man coverage. It's never when he's in zone.
Yeah, it's tough for those guys to transition smoothly and not lose ground,
But when the argument is, if they're 6'2", they got the length to make up for it. Well, maybe you have to have absolute extraordinary length to make up for it. Kyrie Jackson has it.
You got to have
this is the first.
Burst.
Well, yeah, but it's also the recovery burst, the short burst that's a huge part of it. Yeah,
he has,
but he's like you mentioned, he's abnormally long. Yeah. I mean, he might just be the guy. This is the first 6'2" corner I've looked at, and I've gone lockdown man corner in my life ever. And I watched Sauce Gardner. I was not impressed. I watched Tariq Woolen. Not impressed.
JC Horn, maybe.
JC wasn't quite 6'2".
Wasn't convinced 6'2".
No, but I thought he was a zone guy anyways. So that's the thing is, I look at this guy and I think man coverage, he's capable. He's really good in zone 2. That is perfect for match 4. That's perfect for match 4. So there's literally half the league's running it right now.
And match 4 is basically, for people that don't, it's basically man, but
it's like a man zone hybrid.
Yeah, you're in man coverage, or you're matching. You're in zone coverage. You're pattern matching, and so you're gonna end up in man basically at some point. Is how I don't know how to better to explain it without.
So here's how it is. Here's how it works. So actually, here's what's funny is the high school that I work that I do stuff with over here. They run match 4. They don't call it match 4, but it's match 4. Mm-hmm. And so what they do is they have this thing. It's called cut. That's when they go to their 2 deep. And cut means that you're going to give, if you're the outside corner and he goes inside, you're going to hand it off and take the flat.
Yes.
That's match 4.
Yeah, you have rules based on 1 and 2. If 2 inside of 7 yards cuts out, outside corner takes him, and then your safety will have the vertical or the number 1. It's your eyes have to be quick. You have to process information fast. But you get the advantage of starting in zone, and then you kind of get to chase a man. Because I played it in college as well. We played it exclusively all the time. And I did it in semi-pro a little bit. It's really cool, but you can get, if you forget your rules for, half a second, cooked.
Yeah, you get toasted. Absolutely. But that's my point is half the league's running this right now because you teach professionals how to run this system and they can run it really well. And yeah, you're going to have your weaknesses. I mean, the Chiefs absolutely abused it in the Super Bowl in the second half when they came out there with those little whip routes. Show the motion inside and then last second come back out when they've already passed off the assignment. Now nobody's there kind of deal. Or if it was a follow rule, whatever they got. So match 4, depending on how you're lucking it, where you bring your blitz looks, it's going to change a little bit and stuff, but it's basically a man zone hybrid. So if you've got a guy like Kyrie Jackson, that's perfect for that. Absolutely. Yeah. I think I'm not even overthinking it. That's just a no-brainer. It's like you watch that and go, yep, top 10 pick right there because he can play match 4.
He's one of those guys where I'm like, I want to see how he tests. I don't have doubts he'll test great, but I'm like, if he runs 4.63,
I'm still taking him. I'm still taking him if he runs 4.63 because I guarantee you he's going to have, it's either going to be between 10 to 20 or 20 to 40 where it's going to be insane.
Yeah, probably. It does change something. It's one of those things where we look at history and we're like, all right, let's line up all the, what is it? There's like that, people on Twitter post it all the time. And it's like any corner who ever has run 4.59 or slower. Here's the list of the guys that have been drafted. And it's like the worst list of all time. Like not
Rondé Barber's on that list too. So
yeah. So there's
he's
like
in the Hall of Fame.
but he's the exception, not the rule, right? There's like
Exactly,
one guy ever that's done it. So it's always interesting. Like I used to be a little against the testing. I'm like, no, I saw you can play. Like I'm stubborn. You can play, but then there is more to it. And teams are going to look at this big time. Like that's what I've learned working in this industry is like the checklists that teams have are so important. And they put so much time into all these little things that sometimes we write off because we're media and our jobs don't depend on it. But like, teams are like, like if I'll get fired tomorrow if this guy doesn't work out. So it's one of those things.
Oh, absolutely. But when you look at a guy like Kyrie, man, oh my God. Like just
it's hard not to like him.
He's a top. There's no way he runs under a 4.6, man. There's no way. He's gonna be a 4.4 guy.
I think so. But like I said,
he might even slide up to like 4.37. Do something stupid like that.
It's just like we were talking about a few weeks ago, like Marvin Harrison Jr. You just want those checklists to kind of fill the boxes in, so you're like, peace of mind. Like we talk about all these receivers, and we're like, they're great, and then the one you like most comes out and runs 4.65. You're like, mother of God, like that was I didn't need that today. Now I'm gonna overthink it, or maybe that's something I shouldn't. Maybe that's a red flag I shouldn't overlook. So, like in this receiver class is great, by the way. In the Oklahoma game that we were just talking about, Jaleel Farouk, senior, he's 6'1", or he's a junior, 6'1", 204, had a little coming out party. I mean, he had a great last year, but it was really good to see him kind of be the playmaker for Oklahoma against Texas.
You know what my big concern with him was when I saw that?
What?
One trick pony.
I have that same
Jalen Hyatt, right? Jalen Hyatt wasn't that? Is that who was going through your head?
No. So like Farouk is thicker to me, and he's better with the ball in his hands. Like after the catch, he's physical, and he can kind of. But I'm more like, what do you look like downfield? Like, can I ask you to run real routes, and what do you look like there? That's my concern. I don't think he has great feet, but I think he's at least making a name for himself. It's like, all right, he's draftable. He might not run the whole tree, but he's a draftable guy because I mean he had a great game. And another receiver who had a great game. Did you see Malik Neighbors from LSU?
He's had a great year, dude.
Oh, he's
been insane. He's been insane. Absolutely.
So I have. It's not a hot take, but it's just something that's on my mind. Because I was talking about it the other day again with somebody, a different conversation about what class was it? Justin Jefferson, Jerry Jeudy, CeeDee Lamb, and Henry Ruggs. That class, Laviska Shenault. So in that class, Justin Jefferson, it's not even close. He's the best receiver from that class, right? Well, Jeudy got the Bama bump, and everyone's, he has highlight reel route running, blah, blah, blah. CeeDee Lamb was making really cool catches against the Big 12. So we're like, all right, he's cool. Henry Ruggs is the fastest kid that's ever lived. Mm-hmm. I know you want to make a joke, but don't.
I'm not going to. Nope.
Yeah, I saw your face. I was like, oh, shit.
Leaving that one alone.
And then you got Justin Jefferson, who fast, but not the fastest. Okay size, but definitely not the biggest. Played in the slot his senior year, played in outside junior, but he blew up in the slot. So now you're like, is he a slot guy only? My thing was, I thought, look, and I've been wrong before, so I'm not patting myself on the back here like, oh, I'm smart. I'm an idiot most of the time. But Justin Jefferson was clearly to me like the best of the bunch. I'm like, he does that. He's like the mixture of everything of all these guys. Has enough size. So you can't say, oh, well, CD's bigger. He's definitely better. Justin Jefferson had great hands. He had great route running. He might have not been highlight reel like Jeudy, but I'm like, the kid understands separation. He's great with the ball in his hands. He tracks downfield well. We've seen him have outside reps. I watched Malik Neighbors this year, and I'm like, all right, he's 6 feet, 200 pounds. He might come in a little smaller. I'm not sure that's 100%. But this class has a lot of big guys that are like the highlight reel big guys. Keon Coleman, Rome Oduns, Marvin Harrison Jr. Then you have Malik Neighbors, who he's smaller than all of them. Which immediately, bumps him down because we think, all right, these other guys are great. They're fast too. What makes Neighbors go over him? I just have this feeling that we might in 5 years from now think, why was he not the top receiver taken? Like, you look at the kid's tape, you look at him just raging against the SEC, but we're going to draft 3 guys over him because they were taller. I'm not saying I'm going to come out with him having the highest grade, but I think he's such a good player, and it would not shock me if in 4 to 5 years he's the best of the bunch and he's an elite NFL receiver because he's doing it right now and he doesn't really lack anything. I can't find a knock on his game other than he's only 6 feet, and that's not a huge knock. That's enough size. So I could be an idiot. I could be crazy, but I just watch him and think like everything he does translates, and it's like there's no question about it.
He's going to be one of these guys that you rotate through every spot, every slot that you possibly have to put a wide receiver on, and that you're going to use that as a mismatch type deal. And he's got a couple good guys around him too that help him. I think Brian George is one of them that's looked really good so far. Number 11, maybe it's Brian Thomas.
Yeah, I can't remember that.
And then the tight end helps out as well. It also helps too when you got a quarterback that can run like Jaden Daniels can. So as much as I would love to see somebody knock that goofy smirk off his face, that's mean. I shouldn't say that. But like that's the thing is. Yeah, I could see it too. And the one thing that he kind of separates himself from a lot of these guys is his run after catch ability. He's got crazy run after catch ability. And it's because he's built like a running back.
Yeah, he's not too big. Like, he's not too big to where he has that limitation of, I'm a long strider, I build up speed. It's just everything he does is effortless because he's right in that middle area of like, you're not small, you're not huge, but you almost like Jamar Chase, where it's like his size is actually kind of a positive because dude built like that should not run in the 4.3s and outrun, NFL corners and safeties each week, but he does. And Neighbors is doing that in the SEC.
And Deebo Samuel had similar knocks on him when he came out, and he's turned out to be an absolute playmaker where he's a little bit smaller, much smaller.
Not as fast, though, as Neighbors, but...
Yeah, Neighbors does have some speed, yeah. But there's similar knocks, where it's like, similar skill set where we weren't sure if that was going to work yet, and obviously it does. So, yeah, I could see Neighbors probably going top 20 in this class.
If he runs a 4.3 something, he might go higher than that. This class does have
he'd be top 10 with that. Yeah,
you brought up something a few weeks ago with Marvin Harrison Jr. Maybe that was the last pod we had. Mm-hmm. I thought it was really interesting against Maryland this past weekend. He did his best work when he got free releases and kind of got to run through space. And watching him, who was it? Notre Dame. The Notre Dame freshman that covered him.
He's legit.
Yeah, first off, he's legit, but he fought Marvin Harrison Jr. all game and frustrated the crap out of him. And it was one of those things that we talked about before as well, where it's like we want to see Marvin Harrison Jr. like physically manhandle people and be this like otherworldly prospect. And you've said before, I don't know if he's like the true X that you want to be that guy. It's starting to look like that might be the case. I don't know what that does for his stock. I don't even know if that's a big enough knock to where I'm like, I should drop him at all because he's still special in a lot of things he does. But I do think it's something to point out because Notre Dame and last year, Deonte Banks on Maryland just worked him. And it was like, yeah, he produced a little bit, but like you can see these guys are just not his cup of tea. And then he goes against Maryland this past week and they kind of let him run and he had a game and he looked comfortable when he's in space. He looks comfortable getting that free release and kind of getting into his route stem early, and he kind of dictates terms. Like I said, I don't know what I want to do with that information, but it's definitely something I've taken note of. And I think it's good that you pointed it out because he might not be that guy that we think he is, where I think he's being talked about right now like he's Calvin freaking Johnson. And he might be a top 10 pick still, maybe even top 5. But I think there is something to, when you watch this year's tape, it's going to be clear that he doesn't like hands on him. It's just not what he thrives on, where I think Keon Coleman and even Rome Oduns from Washington might be a little better in that department, where they're more able-bodied when it comes to, the hand fighting and the being physical at the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, and they are. That's the thing, but and he made some really good catches, obviously, in that game too, where he showed he can go through contact. I mean, he's shown that before. He's had some real highlight. His hand strength's great, but yeah, like you said, he don't like that press coverage, man. And if I'm an opposing defense, and the other thing I think that's worth pointing out is you have a guy that is being regarded right now as the best wide receiver in the country. I mean, you listen to ESPN Game Day, you listen to Fox Noon Kickoff, you listen to all those different broadcasts. They're all, oh yeah, without question, he's the number one wide receiver in the country. That means that, especially in the case of that Notre Dame game, if you're that freshman corner that's tasked with guarding him, you are giving him every bit of hell that you possibly can, because
he gets players best every week.
And that's another thing that you want to see out of a guy is he handles that. You handle taking the best shot everybody's got at you every week. And there's been a couple games this year that he shouldn't have been, and he's been quiet.
Yeah. And I think it's fine if he's quiet on the stat sheet, but you go back and watch the game and you're like, okay, they just they rolled coverage to him. It wasn't necessary for them to get him the ball to win. But against Notre Dame, I'm like, they could use
Indiana too.
Yeah,
Indiana too.
Use you win some of these reps, buddy. You kind of gotta pull your weight here. Be the guy.
The other thing too is their quarterback play is nowhere near what it was the last few years. You know what I'm saying?
McCord is no Stroud.
McCord.
Yeah. He underthrew. There was Harrison had an easy touchdown on that long ball over the field where he catches it, ducks contact, and then runs and falls. Whatever. If you watch it on, was it already the on 20? Whatever. He's so open before the ball is even there, and then he underthrows it, so he has to slow up, catch it. That's a house call if it's a good throw. So he does. He deserves credit for he is insane. He's a crazy talent, but I just think it's those first 5 yards. If you watch all his reps, you're like, it's not
for him to dictate the defender. He has to have space. He has to have time to operate to set him up. And if you press him and throw hands at him and do everything you can to knock him off of that, he doesn't respond to that yet.
It's not his favorite. Not his favorite.
So
yeah.
But yeah, so before we go ahead and wrap this thing up, because we're at an hour. That was a quick hour too. And
having fun, buddy.
Nashville's brought it to 3-2. Just saying. Shane's back there going, yeah, Yossi, yeah. We're in the Roman Yossi jersey back there.
Yep.
So before we wrap this thing up, is there a guy that maybe from a smaller school that you've observed that really stood out to you so far this year?
Funny you should ask, buddy. Texas State just beat Nevada 35-24.
Okay.
And their running back, Ismail Mahdi, smaller dude, but he ran for 216 yards on those boys. He kind of reminds me of the Bronco rookie, Jaleel McLaughlin. Small, burst, speed, angle eraser. He's not going to be for every team. He's not going to be a flashy high prospect or anything like that. But you can't watch his games and deny that this kid has something to him. And some of those plays that he ran against Nevada, I'm like, oh, it's not going to go anywhere. And then, he turns the corner and boom, gone. So I don't really get into small school players till the end of the year usually, but he made me take note kind of early. So, that was a crazy, that was
Texas
a great
State
game. And,
yeah.
And they upset Baylor this year. They're not a slouch. They're not a slouch this year. And I think he's a big part of it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, he is. I'm going to make sure I get this dude's pronunciation properly before I get mine. But Texas State has been absolutely a great offense to watch. I'm becoming a huge, what's his name? GJ Kinney. He's a head coach.
GJ.
He actually used to be a quarterback. He's a third string quarterback in the NFL for a few years. I think he was in Philadelphia for a little while because that's why I remember him. And then he goes to Incarnate Word. He's their head coach, I think, for maybe a year. Maybe it was 2. I think it was 1 year. And he gets this job at Texas State and flips the roster through the transfer portal, and boom, they explode. They've been a lot of fun to watch. I can't find a pronunciation for this guy, so I'm just going to probably slaughter his name.
Just butcher it. Let's do it.
New Hampshire running back Dylan Lobby. This guy is something else. Okay?
Yeah?
Yeah, no. I'm talking small school, but Jim Nagy, Eric Galco, all those all-star game people are taking notes of this guy. He's entered the year considered a high priority free agent, but one thing that we've seen kind of pop in the NFL so far is the rise of the running receiver. Okay? Guys that are running back / wide receiver combos with a lot of speed or quickness or whatever it is, and using them all across the formation. You can pretty much name me an NFL team, and I can tell you who the running receiver is on that team. It's just popped out of nowhere. Everybody's using it now. So in the case of Dylan, he fits that perfectly. There's several teams that are still trying to figure that out right now, who is going to be their guy. You got contract years coming up for some of these guys. You can draft a guy later in the draft like this guy and use him for 4 years in this role, and he's ready to go now. He doesn't have great speed. He's not a guy that's going to blow you out of the water with his testing, but his short burst is what really makes him stand out. He's an excellent receiver. He's got really decent contact balance. Acceleration is seamless. Like, he goes from 0 to 60 like that, which is why he's got the short burst. His long speed, it catches up to him, but he's got enough short burst where he can create a really good gap and get a really good gain. And he's a really good route runner. We're talking almost 5'10", 204 pounds.
Okay.
Yeah, he's built really well. And he looks like a really solid running receiver, next level. And he'll probably be at the Senior Bowl, man. He'll probably be at the Senior Bowl. So if we got a chance to get you down to the Senior Bowl this year, and we get the chance to catch up to the pod live from location,
I think that's very doable this year. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And you said New Hampshire running back / receiver. New Hampshire. Wow.
Yeah. In fact, the game that he they actually got a couple of edge rushers too, man, actually, that might be playing on Sundays. But in the case of this guy, he blew up on the scene because he had a game where he had 20 rushing yards, but like 200 receiving yards. Ooh. I can't remember who they played, but he just...
I'm going to go give this kid a whirl.
He's worth it.
Yeah, that's cool. All right. Good.
So,
good for you.
I guess that's where we're going to end this thing. Thank you for tuning in to the Sick Podcast. Be sure that you check out this show on YouTube. We're also now, I believe, on Megaphone, so it's getting around. I know it's on Apple Podcasts now because I've gone ahead and spammed that link a little bit to Twitter followers. Make sure that you follow us on over there at SickPod NFL Draft. Follow him at Gam Scout. Follow me at Draft Vogel. And yeah, I think that's about all we got for you. Make sure also the rest of the network's great, guys. You can get done listening to this, and you can go listen to Adam Rank talk about the Chicago Bears. You can listen to Tony Mariano break down this thing right here where Nashville's tied at 3-3, 10:55 to play. Baby, yes, Smashville. And all those, we got all kinds of different sports. Tampa Bay, J.C. Allen down there is killing it. He brought on the Buccaneers offensive coordinator. Pittsburgh podcast is killing it. So yeah, we got stuff for all kinds of different stuff. So be sure that you check out those shows as well. Shane, get us out of here.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast with Draft Vogel on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.